Did you know that Johnny Depp, the legendary actor behind unforgettable roles like Captain Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, and Donnie Brasco, just turned 62? That's right, 62 years old. And what's even more surprising? The world can't stop crying. Not out of sadness, but out of overwhelming emotion, gratitude, and deep connection. Fans everywhere, from the bustling streets of Tokyo to small towns in Texas, have poured their hearts out online, flooding social media with messages that are far more than just casual birthday wishes. These are raw, emotional, and sometimes gut-wrenching tributes that show just how deeply Johnny Depp has impacted millions. It's as if people are sending letters to an old friend, someone who was there when they needed it most. But what makes this particular birthday feel so powerful? Why does it seem like more than just a celebrity milestone? If you've ever watched a Johnny Depp film, you already know there's something unique about him. There's a vulnerability beneath every role, a depth that speaks to people on a personal level. But this moment, his 62nd birthday, isn't just about the number of candles on the cake. It's become something symbolic, a kind of global recognition of his survival. Just think back over the last few years. The man went through a brutal and very public battle, lawsuits, media smear campaigns, loss of major film roles, and near total cancellation by an industry he dedicated his life to. For many, it looked like he might not come back from it. But Johnny didn't disappear. He didn't retreat with bitterness or vengeance. Instead, he chose a quiet, introspective path. He leaned into his art, his music, and his true friendships. He went on a European tour with his guitar, showing fans he was still here, just in a different way. He painted. He wrote. And he waited. That kind of grace under pressure is rare, especially in Hollywood. And it's why this year, fans aren't just saying, "Happy birthday." They're saying, "Thank you." They're saying, "We see you." One message from Argentina that went viral reads, "Happy birthday, Johnny. You taught me that pain doesn't define us. You survived, and so can I." That's not your usual celebrity shout-out. That's someone writing to a lifeline. And that's exactly how so many fans describe Johnny, not as a movie star, but as someone whose journey mirrors their own. People across the world are sharing deeply personal stories, and what's fascinating is how many of them have nothing to do with his movies at all. They're about his resilience. His softness. His refusal to become bitter, even when the world gave him every reason to. In Marseille, France, a fan painted a mural that simply said, "62, still our captain." It shows Depp's iconic Jack Sparrow character, hand-painted on a crumbling wall near a harbor, gazing out at the sea. The mural itself is understated, but it's gained attention worldwide. Why? Because it captures the essence of what people feel, that Johnny is still standing, still strong, still himself. He's their captain, not just of a pirate ship, but of a shared emotional voyage. Across social platforms, thousands of birthday tributes continue to pour in. There are poems, songs, charcoal drawings, TikTok tributes with old clips of Johnny giving advice to fans or playing guitar with Jeff Beck. One teen in Seoul posted a video of herself playing Heroes on the violin, dedicated to Johnny. These are not casual fans. These are people pouring their hearts out. One young woman from the Philippines shared on Twitter that she had lost her brother in a tragic accident. During those lonely nights when nothing else helped, it was Johnny's voice in interviews and his music that gave her something to hold on to. She wrote, "He doesn't know me, but he saved me. I will never forget what he gave without realizing it." It's the kind of emotional impact that goes far beyond Hollywood. This is soul-level influence. What's interesting is that 2025 feels different. This year doesn't just mark another birthday, it marks a true shift in Johnny's journey. It's the first time in a long time where fans are not watching him fight to prove himself. They're watching him thrive. His new indie film, quietly released without the pomp and red carpets, has stunned critics. His visual art exhibitions in Europe sold out within hours. And maybe most telling of all, fans are noticing something in his eyes: peace. In the past, when Johnny showed up to events, you could often see the exhaustion behind the charm. But now, he's relaxed. Playful. At ease. One longtime fan shared on Instagram, "For the first time in years, I don't see pain in your eyes. Happy birthday, Johnny. We never stopped believing." There's a psychological phenomenon behind this kind of connection, too. Dr. Karen Dill Shackelford, a media psychologist, has studied the emotional bond between fans and public figures. She explains that when a celebrity shares vulnerability, real pain, not scripted, it creates an extraordinary bond. When a public figure like Johnny is transparent about pain, people feel validated in their own struggles, she said in an interview last year. That's what we're seeing now. This birthday is not just a celebration, it's a mirror. It's a reminder for so many people that pain can be survived, and that we don't have to lose our gentleness along the way. What makes Johnny's story even more compelling is that he never asked for sympathy. He didn't go on a press tour begging for redemption. Instead, he turned inward, focused on music and painting, stayed close to the few people who stood by him, and trusted that time would reveal the truth. And it has. The world saw it. His innocence. His quiet strength. And now, with the noise fading, fans are filling that silence with love. Johnny Depp's journey through one of the most publicly scrutinized chapters of his life wasn't marked by dramatic declarations or emotional interviews on primetime television. There was no attempt to force a narrative, no choreographed comeback campaign. In a world where people often rush to social media for validation or public defense, Johnny chose stillness. He let the world say what it wanted. He let the media speculate, the critics rage, the trolls feast. But he didn't break his character. He simply stepped back, retreating into the things that gave him peace: his guitar, his brushes, his inner circle, and above all, his faith that truth doesn't need to shout to be heard. This quiet resistance was perhaps his most powerful move. He didn't throw blame or seek pity. He didn't perform contrition for things he hadn't done. Instead, he honored the process of healing. He immersed himself in his art, not as a means to distract the public, but as a way to reconnect with himself. Music, something that had always lived in his bones, became a channel for expression once again. Whether jamming with legends or writing in solitude, Johnny turned to rhythm and melody like old friends. He painted for hours, often through the night, pouring the colors of his experience onto canvas, raw, unfiltered, deeply human. This wasn't about creating a marketable image. It was about rediscovering his own. So much of who he is had been buried under headlines and assumptions. The public forgot the gentle soul who played with kids on movie sets, who brought books to interviewers instead of soundbites, who used his fame to lift others in quieter, more lasting ways. But Johnny remembered. He didn't lose himself, even when it seemed like the world was determined to redefine him. And then there were those who stayed. The loyal few who didn't need proof because they already knew his heart. Friends who didn't ask him to defend himself, who simply stood by him, shielding him with presence, not publicity. The value of these bonds deepened as the storm raged. It reminded Johnny, and the world, that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's just showing up. Being real. Choosing truth over spectacle. As the courtroom drama unfolded and the world tuned in, a shift occurred. The truth began to leak through the cracks in the narrative. People watched not just a legal battle but a human being, laid bare in moments of vulnerability, frustration, and sincerity. His words weren't calculated, they were reflective. His demeanor wasn't performative, it was exhausted, honest, wounded, but still standing. And something resonated. People began to see not just the accusations but the man behind them, the artist, the father, the flawed but fundamentally decent soul who had endured more than he ever let on. And then came the quiet. The frenzy died down. The verdict was delivered, not just by the court, but by the public who began looking again, this time with fresh eyes. Johnny didn't need to prove anything. He just needed to be seen, truly seen. And once that happened, something beautiful occurred. Where once there had been noise, rumors, accusations, judgments, there was now silence. But not an empty silence. It was a sacred pause. A breath being held. And then, love. Fans, many of whom had never stopped believing in him, returned with a renewed sense of purpose. Their support wasn't just about his movies or his music, it was about his humanity. Letters, artwork, messages, even tattoos, expressions of solidarity poured in. Social media shifted from battleground to celebration. People spoke about the ways Johnny had touched their lives through his performances, his humility, his kindness. They talked about growing up with his characters, finding pieces of themselves in his portrayals, and feeling seen by someone who never tried to be anyone but himself. It became clear that Johnny's redemption arc wasn't one of grand gestures. It was one of quiet resilience. He didn't demand respect, he earned it, simply by continuing to exist as himself through the darkest of times. His story became a testament to the idea that you don't have to yell your truth for it to be heard. You don't need to fight every battle publicly to win your dignity. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is survive with grace. Now, as he steps into this next chapter of his life, the applause isn't just for his roles on screen, it's for the man who withstood the storm without losing his soul. It's for the artist who turned pain into creation, for the friend who remained loyal and grateful, for the human being who proved that truth, in the end, is its own kind of music. And we're all finally listening. Some are taking their tributes a step further. In Canada, a grassroots fan group organized a charity fundraiser in Johnny's honor. Their goal was to raise $6,200, $100 for every year of his life, and donate it to children's hospitals, one of Johnny's favorite causes. Not only did they meet that goal, they doubled it. Fans from over 20 countries participated. This wasn't organized by a brand or a studio. It was pure, organic love, and a reflection of the kindness Johnny has always quietly shown behind the scenes. A little-known story from years ago recently resurfaced online. During the filming of Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny found out that a young girl in a nearby hospital was a huge fan. Instead of just sending an autograph, he showed up in full costume, stayed in character, and spent hours with her and other children in the ward. He asked for no media coverage. The story only came out because one of the nurses posted a thank you note on a fan forum years later. That's the man fans are honoring at 62, not just the actor, but the human being. Even Hollywood is taking note. Directors, former co-stars, and industry insiders are quietly reaching out again. There's buzz about major studios reopening discussions for roles once thought closed. But perhaps more meaningful than any of that, Johnny seems content. He's no longer chasing approval. He's simply creating, whether it's through a painting, a blues riff, or a heartfelt letter to a friend. That's what real healing looks like. So, what is it about Johnny Depp that makes people cry on his birthday? Maybe it's the reminder that broken things can become beautiful again. That vulnerability doesn't equal weakness. That artistry still matters in a world obsessed with algorithms and trends. Johnny represents something timeless, the wounded poet, the gentle rebel, the misunderstood genius who never gave up. And now, it's your turn to be part of this celebration. What's one Johnny Depp moment that stayed with you over the years? Maybe it's a scene in Finding Neverland that left you speechless. Or a line in an interview where he described feeling like an outsider. Maybe it's just the way he carries himself, that quiet humility mixed with undeniable passion. Whatever it is, share it in the comments below. Your story matters, too. And if this video moved you, don't stop here. Go watch our deep dive into Johnny's emotional letter to his daughter Lily Rose, a piece of writing that reveals the tender heart behind the legend. And if you haven't yet, hit that like button, subscribe, and join our community. We're here for stories that go deeper than gossip, stories that remind us we're not alone. Because at 62, Johnny Depp isn't fading. He's rising. Not with fanfare or fireworks, but with quiet power. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of story we need more of in the world right now.